Hello everyone, this is Turin here, and today guys I'm here with some early access gameplay of the Norsca DLC. In this 2v2 match, it's going to be myself and the inept general facing off against Real Beliefs and Lionheart. So ultimately it's going to be Wintertooth and Norsca facing off against the Warriors of Chaos and the Beastmen. So guys, let's jump right into this game and take a look at some of the cool new units, and we can go from there. So over here for the Wintertooth army, let's begin by taking a look at the Troll King himself, Throgg. So Throgg is definitely, in my opinion, going to be one of the more competitive aspects of Norsca. Firstly, he has very good armor piercing values. If you guys take a look here, of 372, he has an anti-large bonus of 28, and more importantly, guys, he has frostbite. So whenever he hits an enemy target, it could be an enemy lord or a group of cav, anything, he's going to slow them by 52%, which is massive. So if you have like an enemy flying lord that has 80 move speed, he's going to slow him by 52%, bring him down to 40, and then from there, they probably will not be able to get away from Throgg very easily. So on top of that, Throgg also does have regeneration, which does make him weak to fire damage, but still, this is going to be a very, very strong mechanic. And, pretty much Boris Todbringer, Sigvald, all those lords that do have regeneration are pretty popular in the competitive metagame, so I definitely think Throgg will find a home there. He does also have the Wintertooth Crown, which makes a nearby ally or himself unbreakable for 30 seconds, if I'm not mistaken, 38 seconds. He does have the Rally, Fight or Die, as it's called, and he does have Copious Vomit, which is quite cool. On top of that, I do have some Fimir Warriors. So I figured these guys would be a decent choice against Chaos, because Chaos, traditionally will bring a pretty heavily armored front line, and even Forsaken themselves have like 70 or 80 armor, give or take. So they have 27 melee attack, which is somewhat low. Granted, they do have armor sundering, so when they hit enemy units, they're going to lower their armor. They have an anti-large bonus as well, so they can do well against like Shaggoths and different things like that. And these guys do also have From the Mists. So when their leadership is above 50%, they do have a 22% missile resist. And the Regiment of Renown for these guys, I don't think I brought it this game, but they also have the stock ability, which is quite neat. And these units right here, guys, these are Marauder Hunters with Javelin. So personally, of the Norsca DLC, I think these guys are going to be one of the most competitive aspects. They are machines. They have missile damage of 35, which is already really high. And on top of that, they do have a bonus first large of 15. So when they're fighting against Shaggoths, enemy lords, even if they're armored with that bonus first large, these guys just take them down. It definitely makes Norsca very, very true to its hunter theme. So on top of that, I do have some Ice Wolves, the Norscan Ice Wolves, which I think are also going to be very competitive. They do have the Frostbite, whereas the traditional just Norscan Chaos Wolves, I forget what they're called off the top of my head, do not have that Frostbite. So these guys have 101 speed and the ability to slow nearby units by 52%. In the back, I do have some Marauder Spears, so it's pretty awesome that Norsca does have, unlike Chaos, a very cheap option to deal with large units. So the Norscan Spears have good melee defense of 37 and a bonus first large. So this is what everyone's excited to see, I'm sure, is the Maw of Savagery. So these are the Regiments of Renown for the Skin Wolves. They're armored, and these guys, again, are also going to be an MVP in the competitive metagame, I think, because Skin Wolves don't have the best armor-piercing values, the traditional Skin Wolves. I think they rock, like, let's go ahead and take a look at the ratios here. So these guys have 39 AP, and I think regular Skin Wolves are around 19 to 21, give or take. So these guys are going to be very good against Demogryph Knights, Knights of the Realm, and enemy lords, for example, if they can, catch up to them. And, they're pretty quick. And on top of that, they have regeneration and a physical ward save of 20%, which is quite neat. So I have some regular Skin Wolves on the far side and Hunters, and then also, guys, the Fimir Balefiend. So this guy is pretty badass. He's one of the caster options, so you can get the Fimir Balefiend with either fire or shadows. So if you want death, you do have to get the Shaman, but nonetheless, this guy is going to be a very strong combatant. So if traditionally people will see a caster, they'll be like, oh, they're weak, let me go in there and just take them out. But no, this guy is no pushover. He has armor sundering, magic damage, so he's going to lower armor. Very good AP values. He also has From the Mist, so he's going to be a little bit more resilient to missile attacks. And what is this? Evasion. Oh, that's kind of cool. So he gets a 4% acceleration and 6% speed as well. So definitely like the Balefiends. Definitely going to be fun to try those guys out. In the front line, I have a combination of Berserkers who are definitely pretty awesome guys. They have very good, damage values with 44 weapon strength base and 13 armor piercing damage with a total of 57. But more importantly, they have Berserk. So these guys, the longer they're in combat, they're going to get incremental buffs. So 16 leadership, 22 physical resist, and then ultimately they get melee attack as well. So in long battles, if you can kind of keep them from getting focused down by missiles, they're going to be absolute beasts. Over on the far side, you can see the Regiment of Renown. So these guys are basically an unbreakable group of Berserkers. So that's pretty much it for my army. I do also have a Frostworm flying around somewhere. The Frostworms are awesome. In terms of stats, they're very similar to most dragons in this game, but they have Frostbite, which is immediately anything that slows or regenerates is going to be considered for the competitive metagame, in my opinion. So that's pretty much it for my army. So let's go ahead and take a look at the inept general's army. So he decided to be the Mammoth Master, so he does have the Mammoth with the War Shrine. So not only does this thing just massacre infantry with heavy armor piercing values and a good anti-infantry bonus. Let me go ahead and get that right there for you guys. Yeah, so you can see it has a bonus for infantry. It's only a 5, but regardless, it has 400 armor piercing damage. So against Chaos and Bestigors and even against Gorbals and things like that, this thing is quite a beast. It does also have almost 13,000 HP, so nothing to sneeze at. But it has Giver of Glory, so it can give a nearby unit unbreakable and also fire damage, and it has this Favor of the Ruinous Power. So you guys can see that circle. It's giving all those units 10 leadership there. So my apologies for the long-winded introduction, guys, but there's just so much to show you. So guys, we do also have Wulfrik the Wanderer down here. He has the Sea Fang and of course the Hunter of Champions. So Sea Fang is basically like Winds of Death. And you can see that the Beastmen, I think they have the Cygor Regiment of Renown up there, which I'll show you guys in a moment. So that's it for our army. So let me go ahead and jump here, and well, I'll kind of skip through a lot of the traditional Beastmen stuff if you guys, as you guys pretty much already know all of that, but I'll look at the regiment. So he has Blackhorn's Ravagers of the Gore Herd. So these guys have, let's go ahead and see. So they have Rowdy, so they're immune to Vigor. They also, when their leadership is wavering, it's disabled, so interesting. They also do have Primal Fury, and of course their stats are going to be a little bit better. And they do have stock, so that's kind of cool, because Gore Herds, if I'm not mistaken, don't traditionally have stock. Over here, he has the Destroyers of Drakwald. So these guys are an anti-large regiment of Ungor Spearmen, and they're actually not a bad option. I would consider using these guys in my back line against like Empire and these other factions where you really want that poison to kind of slow down that harass. On top of that, he does have the Eye of Morsleb? Yeah, I'm totally mangling that. This is another one I think we'll see competitive play because it has a snare. So it has this ability called the Warp Gate. So on top of being more accurate and having better stats than a regular Cygor, it can lock enemy units down. So you could trap like a General of the Empire and then just swarm them with the Gorbals. So definitely some cool stuff, and I believe he does have Morgur the Shadowgate. So for Chaos over here, the only kind of new regiment around he has, and of course aside from the mighty Prince Sigvald, is he has Prince Sigvald's personal bodyguard, the Mirror Guard, which are around here somewhere. So let me show you guys. I think he's over here in the back. So yeah, so he has the Mirror Guard. So the Mirror Guard are so cool looking. I mean, they look like, yeah, I don't know what that time period, that style would be from, but I mean, of course, just from contemporary media, I would say Roman. But regardless, they just basically have better combat stats than Chaos Warriors, and then they do have immunity to psychology. So guys, without further ado, let's get right into this game. It looks like we got some Dragon Ogres as well as some Baconators up here, so it's definitely going to be a good battle. So the forces of Wintertooth are going to be marching over here. My army and the Inept General is going to be going and meeting the Beastmen. So we actually had no idea where they were because they really condensed up here in the forest, so I send my Frostworm as a scout, which is definitely a very useful tool. So you can see the Frostworm over here. It's kind of, obviously see all these Warriors of Chaos and the Mirror Guard and all that stuff. So in order to kind of stay in line with thematics, we decided to have Prince Sigvald fight against Throgg. For those of you that don't know, spoiler alert, they have a big duel in the end time. So if you guys want to see who actually wins that duel, definitely go check it out yourself. I know some of you guys might be reading end times novels or looking into that, so I don't want to spoil that for you. So Throgg and Sigvald kind of do have this story thematic aspect to one another. So I'm kind of trying to reform ranks right here. You can see Throgg and the Berserkers are kind of running over to meet these Warriors of Chaos, and in the meantime, we do have this this heavy-duty engagement here. So you can see the Berserkers have engaged against some of these Bestigor herds, and this Giant here is also doing a pretty good job of cleaving these Marauder Champions. So Marauder Champions are basically like Warriors of Chaos, or Chaos Warriors. But guys, I'm telling you, Norsca is so incredibly good at taking out monstrous units. This Giant, even though that's just one volley, he's going to get destroyed by these Javelins. They have that bonus for large, and also the light armor of this guy is going to make for a very short time. So let's go ahead and see if we can find Wulfrik the Wanderer. So we do have Morgur the Shadowgate in here, and you can see the Giant, or excuse me, the Frostworm has jumped down on him, and it looks like Wulfrik is kind of chilling in the back, doing a little bit of a delayed engagement, and the War Shrine should be getting in there shortly. So let's go ahead and jump over to my side of the battlefield. We can see that the Warriors of Chaos have engaged with some of my Berserkers down here in the valley, and you can see Throgg, Big Daddy Throgg, is just going to be laying into these guys, and he does have the support of the Famir Warriors. So let's give you guys some regular speed kind of action, and actually I think I did pull Throgg away because there was a big kind of pitched battle going on over here with these Skin Wolves and these Dragon Ogres, and I really wanted to make sure to win that. So I left some of my Berserkers here to stay and fight. You can also see this Pit of Shades is just tearing into these Chaos Warriors. So I did get the Famir Shadowcaster, so he's able to use abilities like Pit of Shades, which is quite cool. So very wild battle so far. You can see my Frostworm is kind of lurking up in the sky, but this is where the real fighting is going to begin. So the Frostwolves get in here, and they're going to be jumping on these large targets, and then you can see the Skin Wolves coming in with their anti-large. Granted, Dragon Ogres versus Skin Wolves is probably going to be a pretty healthy engagement for both sides, but what I have, and just so much going on, you can see it's lagging the frame rates. I do have my my Marauder Hunters with Javelins in the back who are throwing in and are just lancing these guys down. So you can see these Dragon Ogres taking a lot of damage. The Skin Wolves and some of my Berserkers, they're frostbitten, they're slowed, they're not going to get away. So definitely doing some good healthy hunting here, because these Javelins come in high density, and with that weapon strength, man, it just tears apart large units. So you can see the Shaggots here really just getting massacred by these guys. And, you know, Big Daddy Throgg's around here somewhere. Let's go ahead and see. Yeah, he's fighting in the pits versus fellow trolls. He's trying to turn him to the ways of the Norsca troll side. So definitely doing us proud. You can see the Khmer warriors and the Veil Fiend in there are also helping out, sundering armor. And of course, using this Frostworm, I was able to kind of isolate and kill this Chaos Sorcerer. So definitely a wild fight. Prince Sigvald and the boys are, you know, doing their best, and they're actually holding pretty well in the front line because Berserkers are not good versus armor. My Marauder champions were, but you know, they kind of got beaten down. So guys, let's go to the other side, and you know, this is what everyone wants to see is just a big glorious war mammoth. So he actually had 2 mammoths. He has the Soul Crusher, which is the Regiment of Renown, the elite mammoth right here of a war mammoth, and on top of that, he does also, yeah, this one has Enrage, and he does have the standard mammoth, which is just the War Shrine. So this is going to be a lot of meat and potatoes for the Beastmen to get through, and you can see he's just charging through, just routing these units off the battlefield. And this other mammoth here, it looks like it's just going King Kong and Godzilla, and oh, look at that cleave, just absolutely massacring those Beastmen. So definitely a very wild fight so far. Let's see if we can find Wulfrik the Wanderer. So we do have Morker right here, and I would love to see a Morker versus Wulfrik battle. But it looks like that mammoth actually did get routed, so very well played by Surreal and Lionheart over here, taking down that big war mammoth. I think they were using some of their Gorbals to kind of fight that guy down. So here we do have the Giant. He's getting pretty low, 2,000 HP, and this Soul Crusher is unfortunately at quite a bit of HP, and it is terror routing a lot of these Beastmen. And you can see those Javelins just continuing to pepper on that Giant, so definitely giving the Mammoth quite a big leg up here. And I think the Mammoth would win in a head-up fight because it has these Marauders. If we go ahead and look up here on top, guys, so these Marauders actually throw spears, the same spears as the Javelin guys, and they do have an anti-large bonus. So you can see this elite Cygor, the Eye of Morsleb, coming in here and just kind of stomping on this Mammoth. So the Soul Crusher is starting to kind of get beaten down here a little bit, guys. You can see just this King Kong and Godzilla battle going down, but that Mammoth does go down to, not Mammoth, that Giant does go down to some of those Hunters. So very well played there. You can see over here, we do have a duel between Wulfrik the Wanderer and this Gorbal, and Wulfrik should be able to win that fight. He does have very good combat stats, but it looks like he's going to be turning his eyes somewhere else. I'm not sure. No, it looks like he's going to stay and fight the good fight. So Wulfrik, oh man, that's not good. That Gorbal just laid into him, so he must have actually been pretty low before that fighting even started. So let's go ahead and jump back over here to the far side where we can see the forces of Throgg are kind of getting down and dirty in here. So Throgg has been fighting Prince Sigvald and just mashing on him. And you can see a lot of the Chaos forces have actually been pushed back. And I think that's largely due in part to the far side having been pretty heavily won. So my Skin Wolves and as well as my Frostworm were really able to take the day over here, especially with the support of the Marauder Hunters. So guys, if you're looking for a competitive unit, I would definitely say that these guys are going to be one of the best. They're pretty quick for infantry. With when augmented, they do have a 38 speed, but more importantly, they do have Berserk themselves. So they're going to get leadership and physical resist. They're pretty durable, and you can see they're actually lancing off some of those halberds on the far side. So let's go ahead and take a look at Big Daddy Throgg. I'm pretty sure he's in here somewhere. Yeah, he's fighting Sigvald. So this is actually a reenactment of the End Times duel. You can see that I do have these the Khmer Veil Fiend right here, who does have those armor sundering attacks. So Throgg has very good AP, and I'd be interested to do some testing, but I'm pretty sure he would just, you know, mangle Sigvald. Because Sigvald doesn't have it as good of AP, and the one thing that Sigvald does usually get is like the regeneration advantage on enemy lords, but Throgg, of course, does have regeneration. So with that being said, Sigvald has routed. The Warriors of Chaos have routed as well. Even though Wulfrik did take a beating, it looks like the War Mammoth was able to kind of cut down the Giant, and you can see the Eye of Morsleb there was routing off, unfortunately. And the Skin Wolves are such a good anti-large option. They're fast, they regenerate. It's pretty incredible. So let's go ahead and take a look at the big performers here. So the Veil Fiend himself got 52 kills, which is quite good. You can see these Norscan Ice Wolves really did well for themselves. But a lot of my Skin Wolves and different things like that were fighting against Trolls and Shaggots, so their kill ratios aren't really going to, you know, be accurate. But nonetheless, these Brutes of the Hound still got 85 kills, even though they were fighting against Warriors of Chaos there. I definitely like Surreal having brought a bunch of Halberds. Halberds are going to be good against Norsca because number one, they have decent enough stats to kind of stand against the Berserkers and, you know, even against the Marauder champions who aren't the most cost-effective unit. These champions right here, I feel like they're a little bit overpriced. Granted, Norsca has to have a weakness like that because Norsca is going to be a top-tier faction for sure. They have a lot of great tools. Granted, the one thing they do lack is like traditional lore of life, which is, you know, in many ways a staple of competitive factions, but a lot of their units already heal anyway, so I feel like they'll be fine. Skin Wolves are going to be top tier. They're fast, they have healing, you know, pretty good leadership and armor piercing with the mobs of savagery as well. So yeah, that was pretty much it from my side in Surreal. We had a pretty good little battle there. I mean, our infantry battle was very even. The Warriors of Chaos performed quite well, especially the Mirror Guard here. But I think the determining factor was the Chaos Trolls and the Dragon Ogres got pretty heavily outclassed by the Skin Wolves and the Javelin throwers here. So, but other than that, it was very you know, even fight. And we're, you know, everyone's still kind of feeling things out there. So The Inept General here, let's go ahead and take a look at him and Lionheart. So here, you can see he had some Marauder Spearmen that did well for himself, but again, it was all about mammoths and monsters over there. So his mammoths really just ran shop and just kind of routed off these best scores and terror routed those guys. So the Gorbel performed quite well. I think having a second Gorbel and maybe some Ungor Raiders to kind of poke down and provide some missile pressure would have been very good as well. It was pretty cool seeing the Eye of Morislav. I wish I could have seen it, like the snare used, but man, Lionheart really took out that Wulfrik over there. So I would have loved to see Wulfrik in action, but I have a feeling he was just like fighting Gorbels and maybe running from Giants and Minotaurs a lot of the fight. So it also would appear the Butchers did well. The Butchers of Kalkengard, yeah, I think that's what they're called, and I think they have regeneration. I think that's what makes them quite unique. So regardless, very well played to the Inept General, Surreal Beliefs, and Lionheart. If you guys haven't already, go check out all of their channels. I'll make sure to put links in the comment section as well as the description below. And yeah, guys, thanks again. And we'll be putting out a lot of Norsca content in the next few days, probably about 6 or 7 different games from these preview series. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy. And thanks again for watching, guys. Have an excellent night and take care.